And I know there are some questions here around, it's like, what recommendations do you have, like, for agencies who want to turn their business from the classical, let's say, client relationship, where we deliver on branding, on media and so on, to a more educational model? But I know, like, Theo and his colleagues, like Mark and Michael, I think, is around.
Yes, two friends and colleagues of mine are here joining us now, Michi and Mark. Both wonderful designers and both love your talks and your coaching, Chris. Genau. Together we help brands and leaders find their story and bring it to the world. And we have this two hearts beating in our chest, the heart for the right words and stories. Word creates worlds in best case. And we have the heart for crafting, for design, illustration, animation. And so we had we realized it takes more than just creative ideas and concepts. It takes empowerment for leaders, learning spaces for leaders, because we believe the future always starts with the story. We are currently developing a storytelling course for leaders and organizations on how to communicate, how to make messages that stick and move people. And our question is, what recommendation do you have for an agency that is already working effectively with their client project, but now they want to move into an educational model?
What does the educational model look like to you, Theo?
Video online course for better storytelling for leaders.
Okay, this is self-directed, or is this going to be with a teacher and TAs?
Both is possible.
Ideally, which one would you pick if you had to pick one?
The second one.
Okay.
With coaching.
With coaching. Okay, so there's the scalable part, which is the pre-recorded videos, and then there's probably some self-study exercises with some one to few collaboration coaching adjustments, right?
That's
okay,
right.
Beautiful.
That's correct.
Have you figured out your pricing model yet?
No.
That would probably be a good start, because the price will determine the expectations. If you charge $100,000 for this storytelling course, the expectations will be really high. If you charge $99 for it, expectations will be very different. And people tend to, this is strange. There's some kind of like pricing theory here that I don't fully understand, but I know that it exists, which is the more somebody pays for a course, the more invested they are in the results of that. And we see this because if you're given a free trial 3-month subscription to one of these online courses, most of us happily sign up and then never watch a single video, or we watch one video and we don't see it through. Conversely, if you make a commitment by paying a lot of tuition for a 4-year university, you're going to probably see that through. You know what that looks like. And so somewhere in between these 2 points is where you're going to want to be. And so you want to think about that. Is this meant for a lot of people to take over the lifetime of the product, or only a few people to take? That'll also help you determine the price point. And I know it's boring to talk about price point at the very beginning, but it is important because it'll allow you to position the product in the marketplace. It'll teach you, or it'll inform you in terms of how to communicate the message to these people and how big it is and how much commitment you're going to make. Okay, so let's just put that on pause for 1 second. Number 2 thing I want you to think about is, how will you attract people to this course? How will they find out about your course? And if this is the first course or the first piece of educational content you've created, how will people find out?
In a free webinar.
Okay.
Webinar, we taught them our framework, free content, 60 minutes or something like that. Yes.
Okay.
And yes.
Okay. And then how will they find out about the free webinar?
Good question.
So you need some help there, maybe?
Yes, please.
Okay. So everybody does understand there's this whole funnel thing, right? And I hate to talk about it in funnels because funnels are like boring. I like want to kill myself, but we have to talk about it. Just think of like a pyramid that's upside down, everyone. There's the top of the funnel. It's the biggest part. It's the awareness part, which is where I think a lot of people need help. Once we get to the part where you're doing the webinar, you're inside the webinar, assuming that it's a good webinar, that it gives you a really good taste of what you're going to learn. It tackles some of the objections that people are going to have. And we can get into all this stuff. I don't know how deep we want this conversation to go. So right now we need to build awareness. And I would suggest to every single person here, whether or not you want to launch a course or not, or sell a knowledge product, it doesn't matter. You should always be working on top of the funnel awareness for what it is that you're doing today and forever moving forward. Because the day that you write your book, or that you're speaking at an important conference and they're relying on you to bring your audience, today's the day. You got to start today, and you have to build that awareness. And a lot of people talking about it social media, but I just look at it as platforms for you to teach, for you to deliver value consistently without being salesy. People are very smart at smelling a sales pitch, especially in Europe. I feel like you guys are very good at,
Yes.
no, I know what you're doing. You're trying to sell me something here. And we just turn that switch in our brain. Like, I don't trust you. I don't like you. I'm not going to keep investigating.
Yes.
So here's the thing. What you need to do is to figure out, okay, I'm going to teach people how to tell stories. What are ways that I can teach people storytelling that's natural, that's going to provide value? And I'm going to do that. I'm going to figure out what way, what technique, what platform. For some people, it could be on YouTube. YouTube's a wonderful platform. It has its strengths and weaknesses. But one of the best things about YouTube content is it allows you to use all of what you do: audio, visual, graphics, animation, which I think you mentioned. And so you can use all those things to your advantage. You get to get a really good sense of who the instructors are. There's a relationship that develops between you, the author, and the audience, because they get to see you, hear you, and hopefully get a sense of who you are. It's evergreen. If you produce content that's really good, it will last for years. It's one of the few platforms that something that you create in 2014 will still be watched in 2021 if it's good. So there's strong motivation for you to create really, really good content that's thoughtful, that's value packed, and you want to do that. And it's one of the few platforms where it's highly searchable. So if you nail your title and your thumbnail, it doesn't have to take off right away. So it's got a really, what they call in the industry, like a long tail, and it can pay dividends for you. Some of our videos take months, sometimes half a year to a year, to finally find an audience. So it's not always about instant success. So if those are your strengths, which it sounds like it is, like I look at you, I look at your lighting, the gray wall, the warm and cool lights, it looks like you know what you're doing there. So I would say that for you, probably YouTube's a great way to begin to build your audience. And if you do it right, if you figure out who your audience is and how to communicate to them, you'll grow an audience pretty quickly. So teach us all about how to become better storytellers. What are the best tips? I remember, and this is the last thing I'll say about this. Excuse me. I was working with Dr. Holtzman at Art Center. It's one of the last few years that I was teaching there. And I asked him to sit in my class because he's a faculty development. He teaches the teachers how to teach. So I wanted him to sit in to see how I can improve. And he asked me a couple of quick questions. He said, what are the 5 things that you're thinking about when you're looking at work? He describes this as a criterion-based critique. Most instructors sit there and look at work and give you their thoughts and opinions, but their process is completely opaque to the students. They have no idea what you're saying, why you're saying it. And to you, it's very obvious. For them, they have no idea. So he asked me this very simple question. I use this framework still to this day, which is, what are the 5 things that you're thinking about? And I want you to write those things out. So I taught a storyboarding course. So the first thing I say is, is it clear? Can I tell what's going on in your storyboards? Because if it's confusing, we need to make it clear. Right? Number 2, if it's clear but boring, I don't really care. So the next criteria, is it dramatic? Are you keeping me interested? And I would just go down these 5 things. And it became very clear. And he told me, print these things out, tape them to the wall. Every time you have a critique, ask students to look at the work and to go down your list. And then now all the students are becoming teachers now. So I would just say to you, Theo, think about those 5 things that you think somebody needs to know to tell a really compelling story. And once you can break it down to 5, you know you're on the right path. I hope that was helpful, Theo.
Absolutely cool. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.